Can everyone hear me? Sorry about that. Good morning, everyone. I'm so glad you all could make it here. I'm sorry, I've been trying to remove this thing for years. I just can't seem to take it off. And I'm so sorry that I'm late, but I was hanging out with Billie Jean all night long. No, Billie Jean is not my lover. Then in the hallway, I ran into this Liberian girl, and she talked to me forever. Head into the elevator, here comes Dirty Diana with her gossiping. And I'm thinking to myself, okay, can they all just leave me alone? But you didn't imagine this pretty little young thing to be up here announcing and introducing such powerful people. But do you remember when we fell in love? We fell in love with Michael Jackson's music. So play it, play it, play it, play it, and don't stop until you get enough. Now, I know you've been hearing a lot of off-the-wall things being said, and if you think it sounds a little crazy, you are not alone in your thinking. So, we are the world. We are the children. We're the children of God. And although pastors cannot heal the world, they help you address the man in the mirror. Now, Raymone Bain is an extraordinary woman, and all this off-the-wall things that are being said, Raymone is here to set the record straight. Who's bad? She's bad. And she's about to present to you a thriller. And I don't care if you're black or if you're white. If you don't like what Raymone has to say, just beat it. So, talking about the man in the mirror, this is going to be so interesting. I'm going to have to call Annie afterwards and say, Annie, are you okay? But we just wanted to introduce our prayer person who's going to help us heal this world and help us address the man in the mirror. And we thank you so much for being here. This is Pastor Fletcher Wright of the National Church of God. Thank you so much for being here.
Praise the Lord. Thank you so much. And hey, this is quite a gathering here today. And I just want us to open in prayer. And I certainly wasn't up here to make any comments about Raymone, but let me just say this. I have known Raymone for many, many years. I've kind of lost track how far back we go, but I've always known Raymone as a woman of integrity and just a woman of truth. And so we're here today to just hear what she has to say and to support her and the vision the Lord has given her for tomorrow. Amen. Let's pray. Father, we honor you today and we give you praise. Lord, I thank you for these wonderful people that have gathered here today. And Lord, I pray this day, Lord, that wisdom and knowledge and truth would prevail. And Lord, I thank you today, Lord, that you declare, Lord, that where your presence is, there is liberty. And we just ask for the liberty of the Holy Spirit to flow in this place today. And Lord, we thank you for Raymone. And Lord, we pray this day, Lord, that you would just anoint her, Lord, to speak forth with clarity and with truth and with understanding. And we thank you today, Lord. And we pray, Lord, that the future that you have given her and the vision, Lord, would be conveyed this day with clarity and understanding. And Lord, we thank you as we're celebrating the memory of Michael. Lord, we all have a special place, Lord, concerning what he's done and his influence in our life. And Lord, we're going to treasure that and honor that. And we thank you this day. And Lord, we just commit this gathering, this time together with you. And Lord, we give you the praise in Jesus' name. Amen. God bless you.
Again, I just wanted to thank you all for being here. And again, there's a lot of off-the-wall things that are being said. And in my mind, I'm thinking a bunch of smooth criminals. But anyway, I wanted to introduce someone who you all know. Raymone Bain is such an extraordinary person. Her bio just goes for pages and pages long. She's managed everyone from, she still manages Babyface. There's Muhammad Ali, Serena Williams. There's just so many. And she was with Michael Jackson for an extensive period of time, for 8 years. She was around him. She saw his patterns. She saw his movements. She saw everything that he did. And a person, in my mind, is not guilty until proven innocent. Is not guilty until, yeah, you know what I'm saying. A person is innocent until proven guilty. And after all the things that have transpired, I think that some people can read through the fine lines. But I would like to introduce Raymone Bain. She's a phenomenal, renowned manager, and she's going to be joining us in just a second. Thank you so much for your kindness, thank you for being here, and thank you for your patience.
I'm humbled by this. I never thought that someone from Augusta, Georgia, could grow up, move to Washington, and work for the greatest entertainer of all time, Michael Jackson. But that's who he was, and that's why we're here. I would like to thank all of you for coming out this morning. I would first and foremost like to thank God for his grace, his strength, his blessings, and his mercy. These last 10 years have been very difficult. It has been a long, hard, and emotional road for many of us, including Michael's family and his mother, Catherine. I would like to acknowledge Mrs. Jackson, Prince, Paris, and B.G. Jackson, and the Jackson family, who are celebrating 52 years in the entertainment industry. 52 years. What a milestone. Let's give them a round of applause. I would like to send a special message to Paris. Like your father, you have shown immense grace and class under fire. You are beautiful, you're smart, and you're articulate. You're giving, and you were the apple of your father's eye. Your father would speak to me for hours on the phone about his vision for you and how he wanted you to step up and take over his philanthropic work. He wanted you to be like his best friend, Princess Diana. And after all of the calls over all of the years in which he spoke about you, I have no doubt that you will not disappoint him. For 10 years now, I have heard from an array of Michael Jackson's fans and supporters from around the world who have requested my opinions. You haven't heard much of me in 10 years because I decided that I would sit on the sidelines and I would be quiet. They asked me to speak up regarding certain matters regarding Michael Jackson. Do I like the direction the estate of Michael Jackson has taken over the last 10 years? And mind you, the estate of Michael Jackson is not the family. What are my thoughts regarding recent accusations being levied against Michael Jackson? And if I believe his image and his legacy have been preserved, protected, defended, and maintained efficiently and effectively over the last 10 years. For those of you who do not know who I am, I'm Raymone Bain, a proud graduate of Spelman College, Georgetown Law Center, and a proud member of Delta Sigma Theta Sorority Incorporated. I humbly stand here as the first African American and woman to be named Michael Jackson spokesperson, general manager, president COO of the Michael Jackson Company, his music licensing agent, meaning that all of the music that was approved for the 8 years that I worked for him, I approved. Gold Digger with Kanye West, because Michael Jackson owned Ray Charles's music. So that's Woman Way Over Town. Also, People Get Ready, Curtis Mayfield. Why? Because Michael Jackson owned Curtis Mayfield's music. That's quite a lot for a girl from Augusta, Georgia. In addition to being his music licensing agent, I was his publicist, trustee of MJ Publishing Trust. He appointed me to serve on the board of directors of Sony ATV Music Publishing, and I held 4 powers of attorney over Neverland Valley Ranch, over Havenhurst, over Lindley Properties, and over 21 bank accounts. My relationship with Michael goes way back. In 1990, while on a trip to Atlanta, Georgia, with the greatest of all time, Muhammad Ali, his friend and a longtime friend of mine, Abu Mahdi, and Ali's lovely and dynamic wife, Lonnie, we met with President Jimmy Carter, my former boss. And during our meeting, President Carter requested that I introduce him to Michael Jackson. I said, Mr. President, I'm sorry, but I don't know him. He says, oh, it's okay, you'll get to know him. Well, how prophetic that was. I contacted Michael Jackson, and the two quickly bonded and formed a special relationship. President Carter and Michael Jackson co-founded Heal the World and Heal LA. Michael's son, Prince, a recent graduate of Loyola Marymount University in Los Angeles, has announced that he will relaunch the foundation with Loyola Marymount, where he just graduated. And this foundation of his will focus on child hunger, child abuse, and homelessness. Congratulations to you, Prince, and good luck to you. No one quite understood my relationship with Michael Jackson, and I'm going to share a little bit about that with you prior to my major announcement. He called me from Germany to seek advice regarding the fallout from the baby dangling. He called me in a panic during one of the many raids on his home, Neverland Valley Ranch. And I can't recall how many of them was, 21, 22. They were extremely traumatic to him and to all of us. He called me from jail when he was being arraigned. And he called me even after the interview he felt went awry with my friend, the late Ed Bradley. This is the 10th anniversary of Michael Jackson's death. And for those of you who do not know, Michael Jackson died on June 25th, 2009 at the age of 50, 2 months short of his 51st birthday. Had he lived 1 week from today, he would be 61 years old. 2019 is a year we should be celebrating the sheer genius and generosity of a man whom I personally knew to be gentle, kind, humble, spiritual, and sincere, a trailblazer, a humanitarian, a man who gave almost $300 million away in his lifetime to various charities, who opened the doors for the least of these, who sold over 1 billion records during his lifetime, a man who in 2006 was honored by the Guinness Book of World Records as having sold 104 million copies of one album, Thriller. Just one of his records had certifyingly been sold at 104 million units. That was 13 years ago. He was a man who opened doors, helped influence music and musicians of all genres. He was a man who was one of the first in the industry to give to the NAACP, AIDS research, border babies, the UNCF, and through his friend Elizabeth Taylor, he supported the LGBT community before it became an organized community. He was a man who ordered me to buy up books from bookstores that were going out of business. Why? Because he wanted to open libraries in underserved communities where he was going to take abandoned buildings and restore for that purpose. He was a man who ordered me to pay for funerals of people whom he did not know. Clothes, shoes, family reunions. Why? Because they asked him. He was a man whom I know, based on his spiritual fiber and pedigree, would be incapable of harming a child. Not many of you know that in 2007, Michael Jackson moved here to Washington, D.C. for me and my team to help him reorganize his personal and professional life. He stayed here for 6 months. Not one time was Michael Jackson around a child that was not his own, and not one time did I hear about or ever see Michael Jackson with or around a child during my entire tenure with him, which was 8 years. I feel this is important for me to say, and it's time for me to speak up. Child molestation and pedophilia are serious and unacceptable occurrences. It's sick, psychotic behavior. I consider myself a strong advocate for children and youth. I have been on the boards of directors of several children's organizations, one of which I still currently serve. And let me say for the record that either I nor anyone who was on my team would work for or compromise our integrity, close our eyes, turn our back, or represent anyone who would willfully harm a child. Not only am I appalled that at the beginning of this special year, we were all confronted with a biased, one-sided documentary. I am equally appalled that it has been nominated for 5 Emmy Awards. But if it were not Michael Jackson, would it be nominated for 5 Emmy Awards? It also just won the 2019 TV Critics Award in the news and information category for HBO. Joe Vogel, Hollywood entertainment reporter for Forbes magazine, quotes one of the accusers from something that he wrote in 2009, and he was 27 years old. He says, Michael Jackson changed the world and me personally, my life forever. He is the reason I dance, the reason I make music. He has been a close friend of mine for 20 years. His music, his movement, his personal words of inspiration and encouragement and unconditional love will live with me forever. I will miss him immeasurably, but I now know that he is now at peace. What inconsistency? Does that sound like anyone who has been molested for 7 years? But it doesn't seem to matter about the inconsistency. It doesn't seem to matter that Mr. Jackson was legally acquitted, which involved over 21 raids on his home, many I lived through. And what is most important to me, it does not seem to matter that he is not here to defend himself. Is this the order of the day now? To wait until someone dies to destroy his or her image when they're not here to defend themselves? A man's name, a man who happens to be the most prolific entertainer of all time, and bar none, the most celebrated and beloved African-American entertainer and performer to ever live, that man, Michael Jackson, has been a victim since his death. A victim over and over and over again, and it's time for it to stop. I believe that it is morally, ethically, and legally wrong. But how much blame should the very estate whose job is to preserve, protect, and take care of Michael's legacy? What tone and standard has his very estate taken? What is the standard of behavior? We constantly read after his death in any personal profile of one of the executors that Michael Jackson died $500 million in debt. Unsubstantiated. Didn't Michael Jackson own the Beatles catalog containing 200 Beatles songs, the songs of Ray Charles, Curtis Mayfield, Little Richard, Bob Dylan, some of Elvis's recordings that he purchased in 2007, Sly and the Family Stone, and did you know that he also owned Silver Bells, The Godfather, and 4,000 songs in total? Didn't he sell out 50 shows in a 24-hour period, generating a $450 million ticket sale in March or April of 2009 before his death in June? Then how did he die $500 million in debt? And even if he had, why keep repeating it? For what? A few years ago, in their fight with the IRS, the same executor brought in Michael Jackson's worst enemy to prove that he was broke when he died. And what did this man say? When Michael Jackson died, his image was worth less than a secondhand used car. Selling out 50 shows in a 24-hour period, and you say that his image was worth less than a secondhand used car? What kind of tone are we setting? Rather than build upon his goals and objectives, the estate recently sold the most valuable asset in the estate. Something Michael Jackson said, even to a stranger on the street, that he would never do, and that is sell his publishing. He sacrificed his life for that. It was the cornerstone of his legacy and his success for his children. Sold. Over 4,000 songs were sold back to Sony. In December of 2007, the then chairman of Sony offered Michael $220 million just for My Jack music. Michael turned it down. But yet, 4,000 songs were sold for a reported $750 million, which was less than one Beatles catalog was appraised for. And I do know that because on his behalf, I paid for the appraisal. Neverland Valley Ranch, a 3,000-acre pristine estate, is sitting on the market still when his children said years ago they wanted it because it was the only home they knew. A beautiful place, despite what you've read, which could be used for so many organizations or charities, but it's just sitting. Havenhurst, the Jackson family estate, was taken away under the auspices of renovations. Michael's family evicted. He had a choice to do this in 2006 when we refinanced Havenhurst. He refused to do it. He said it was the Jackson family estate and he wanted it to remain that way. So have the renovations been complete? Has it been turned into a museum? For most observers, it's just sitting. I and others have been fighting for 10 long years, unrelenting. They have refused to sit down and mediate or settle, while they just recently settled with a man who was impersonating a doctor for years, who allowed Michael Jackson's phones to be disconnected so that while he was out there deteriorating, going from 160 pounds to 99, they settled with him. The same man who claims he brought a deal to the table that was brought 3 years earlier through Peter Lopez and I. And it hurts me to say that since his death, not one African American who was a consultant to the Michael Jackson Company has been compensated. Despite all of the collusion we've experienced, we have not lost faith in the justice system or in God. It's easy to say you're a victim, but I don't think any of us have been a greater victim than Michael Jackson. So with all that I have said, should we wonder why some feel that they have carte blanche authority to say and do and speak and act any way they feel towards Michael Jackson? Is it any wonder that there seems to be no limit to what some say whenever they say it and anytime they want to say it? But it's time for a new beginning. Michael Jackson is no punching bag, and he deserves better. Michael Jackson knew. He knew that based on what he experienced during his life, that he would continue to be a target. He knew that there were few loyalties, and he knew that mandates had to be put in place upon his death to preserve and maintain his legacy. Michael Jackson, for any of you who knew him, he was methodical, he was thorough, and he was precise. I have wished, I have hoped, and I have prayed that Michael Jackson's will, dated October 6, 2006, would be found, revealed, discovered, dropped from the sky, because in it, he painstakingly outlined how he wanted his legacy to be preserved and maintained. But this isn't about his will. I don't have it. I don't know where it is. And we've got to deal with the hand that we're dealt. But I have had the honor of having heard him, sat with him, and I witnessed it along with the notary. I knew where his head was and in what direction he wanted to go. in the 10 years since his death for a man who, again, gave over $300 million during his lifetime to various charities. I know of no scholarship, no endowment, no chair, no school, or contribution to any HBCU or college or university in Michael Jackson's name. I know of no recording studio, hospital, clinic, foundation, charity. I've heard of no gift or major contribution to any organization either named for him or given in the name of Michael Jackson. Have any of you? No. And I've said nothing. Michael Jackson embraced his ethnicity. Reverend Jesse L. Jackson Sr. was an advisor, served on his internal financial board, and was also appointed by Mr. Jackson to the board of directors of Sony ATV Publishing. When I put Michael on the phone with one of my mentors, civil rights icon, the late Coretta Scott King, he talked to her 2 days before her death via my friend, the late Yolanda King. Or when I put him on the phone with civil rights icon, Vernon Jordan, or with civil rights icon, Ambassador Andrew Young, or Ambassador Harold Doley, the first African American to have a seat on the New York Stock Exchange. Out of respect, he called them, and he called them to seek their advice. But not one dime since his death has been contributed to any civil rights organization or any organization, to my knowledge, by the estate of Michael Jackson, and I've said nothing. For 10 years, I've sat quiet regarding matters concerning him. I have watched him be victimized while observing and witnessing some of the most questionable behavior, inaction, and decisions made by the very persons who have been given the charge to protect, preserve, and defend and enhance his legacy. Maybe I've been quiet because I've listened to the advice of attorneys as a result of ongoing legal matters. Maybe because of intimidation, maybe because of fear of retaliation. For I've been bullied, I've been hacked, I've been cyber attacked, I've been defamed, demeaned, belittled, and disrespected. But despite all of that, I stand here today strong, confident, and determined to tell the truth once and for all. Because I stand on the shoulders of women and men whom I admire, so many of them, who I've looked up to for their courage, their resilience, their strength, and their spirituality, and I see many of them sitting here in this audience today. What I've witnessed these last 10 years, and particularly this year, I'm saying something. It's time for a new spirit, a new commitment, a new beginning. Even for those who are currently in control, it's time that we take what's left of his 10th anniversary of his death and his 61st birthday to say, Michael Jackson, you are not alone. Yes. We love you and we appreciate you. You are a shining international spirit and you're the son of Black America. To this end, I am honored to announce the establishment of the Michael Jackson Legacy Foundation, a mandate he set forth to preserve, protect, and to defend his name, while supporting the numerous organizations he supported during his life. Michael Jackson might no longer be with us, but through this Foundation, we are hoping he will continue to live among us. I'm not going to even mention the names of the accusers, but I sincerely believe that these new revelations were timed for the beginning of the 10th anniversary of Michael Jackson's death. And I believe it was their goal to derail anything being planned in his honor. But guess what? They failed. Many Jackson fans have contacted me, as I've said, wanting to know what should they do about the fallout from the documentaries. Many of them spent months in Santa Maria, some whom I had not heard from since that time, some as far away as Italy, Australia, Asia, and India. To you all, I say to you today, hold everyone accountable. As of December 2009, there were a certified 1.2 billion Michael Jackson fans worldwide. There is power in numbers. On August 29th, 2019, to celebrate Michael Jackson's birthday, call HBO and let them know we will move forward to cancel our subscriptions if you continue to air one-sided, biased documentaries of Michael Jackson. You should also tell the executors of the estate of Michael Jackson that you're tired of the lackluster defense of Michael Jackson. And if they cannot represent him with enthusiasm, say something nice, respect his mother and family, then it's time for them to go as well. It's time for a change. Hashtag MJ New Beginnings. Let me also take this time to say that Brandy Jackson and Taj Jackson both did an excellent job in speaking up, defending, and congratulating on his 10th anniversary, the many, many, many accomplishments of their uncle. Young people like these, who are articulate, sincere, humble, bright, intelligent, they are the future of this country. The preservation of our culture, our villages, our neighborhoods, our principles. We must move toward honesty and decency, caring, love of God, and following his principles, but our future rests on their shoulders and other young people like them. Hashtag MJ New Beginnings. I'm hoping that the Michael Jackson Legacy Foundation will be able to move forward in a positive way to help preserve, protect, and defend all of what Michael Jackson did during his life, and to maintain someone who helped open so many doors for so many people, that his legacy will be preserved forever. Thank you all, and God bless all of you. I am open to taking any questions that the media might have.
Victoria Sanchez with ABC 7 News. Where will the money come for the foundation if the state has control of the funds?
Well, because the estate does have, because the estate does have control of the funds, the foundation will move forward independently. Personal contributions and contributions that we will raise. For instance, we're in the process of planning a tribute to Michael Jackson. And we're hoping that those funds will be able to be used for an exhibition in the African American Museum for him. We're going to give locally to the Southeast Tennis and Learning Center. and we're going to give monies to Heal the World because Prince Jackson is relaunching that. So we're going to be moving forward in a positive way, planning something very special for Michael Jackson.
Rocky Twine from Rocky's PR Mills, I commend you for your perseverance. But I want to ask you, I know Michael Jackson and President Trump had a very special relationship. Are you going to solicit the help of President Trump in the foundation?
Well, it's interesting that you say that. Michael Jackson and Donald Trump were very close. Michael considered him a very close friend, and he said to me on many occasions that Mr. Trump was one of the few people who never turned his back on him and who was there to help him during his trial. I would love to be able to ask the president to help find Michael Jackson's 2006 will and also reopen what is going on with regards to Michael Jackson's death, and we'll see. But Michael Jackson thought quite a bit of Mr. Trump because he was loyal to him, and that was, during Michael's life. Yes.
Hi, we're Michelle here, host. Aside from yourself, who else is part of the Legacy Foundation and your numbers going to be?
Well, I want to acknowledge Mr. Joe Coleman, Dr. Vanessa Weaver, Mr. Charles Moreland. They're here, and others who have said that they're going to be a part of this. We are just launching, so let me just say this too about Mr. Jackson's mandate in 2006. He was extremely methodical, as I said, and when he sat down, he had a media committee, an investment committee. He had those who would preserve and protect his legacy through his publishing. So as I move forward, I want to bring in people and form those committees as well, so that what his mandate was in trying to move forward in a positive way, we'll be able to help with some of his goals and objectives by doing that.
Is his family involved?
They will be involved. I have not contacted them at all because I think his family has done a great job in protecting and defending him, but it's like what would happen with you. If you're continuously defamed and demeaned and you're continuously bannered about, it's time for the people who are around you on a day-to-day basis, those people who know you professionally, to step up and say, you know what, I know her professional integrity, I observed her, and I know that the person whom I walked with or worked with for 8 to 10 years is incapable, but I also know, based on my personal relationship, what she would have wanted. And so that is the reason why I am standing out. Katherine Jackson and I have been engaged together in litigation going on for several years. I respect her, I respect the Jackson family, and in fact, if you look at my bio, I represented Janet as well as Michael. So I have a special place in my heart, and I am hoping that as we progress, we will be able to have some participation from them, but they have been very key and very honest and very efficient and effective in defending Michael. But my position at this point is that we've got to move past the family and bring in people who knew him, who loved him, who worked with him every single day, so that they can move forward and do some things positive and take some of the burden from the family, because I can imagine it's been quite difficult for them to have to defend every single day without people that were around him stepping up to the plate, and that's what we are doing. Yes?
So maybe you could clarify more about fundraising. So you're saying you would hold events and others?
Well, what we're going to do, we are going to plan a tribute to Michael Jackson. That's going to be the first thing. And as we move forward for those organizations and those causes that we know that he held very close and dear to his heart, we will be making contributions in his name. Yes.
Thomas Hart from on the Potomac Productions. You're looking beautiful, Raymone.
Thank you. That's a longtime friend of mine, by the way, so he's biased.
I remember when we went to the Capitol Hill with Michael. And so my question is, have you reached out to the Black Caucus? Are we going to be something in a roundtable discussion as the Black Caucus comes to Washington in September? Or have you touched base with any of them?
Well, no, not yet, because we are at the beginning stages, just as we are with the family. We haven't reached out to a lot of people or organizations yet. You were there when he came into town on 2004, and he met with them about AIDS and about contributing to AIDS research and to buy medicine for the people in Africa, because at that time we've come a long way with AIDS research and the purchasing of medicine for the underserved there. And that was in 2004, which was, several years ago. But hopefully we'll be able to engage a number of organizations that he was a part of, because he was one of the first to contribute to the Congressional Black Caucus Foundation many, many years ago. So giving away $300 million in your lifetime, I mean, whoo, that's a lot of money. You can imagine how many organizations he did give to. And one of the things that we were concerned about is that, since his death, we know of no contributions. And so we wanted to step up and do something about that, because growing up in the South, and as I said, Coretta King was one of my mentors, and I see Angie Gates, and I see Estelle Lloyd, and I see Prophetess Cordless, and I see some Mindy Lloyd, and Harvey Starr, and Dr. Weaver. All of them are people who step up and fight for what's right and for equality. And I would be remiss if I did not do that. You can't sit on the sidelines and wait for someone else. This man trusted me. I held several historic positions with him, and I feel I would be remiss if I did not stand up for him the way I would hope he would stand up for me. And I also want to acknowledge Cookie Brown, Chuck Brown's daughter. She's just celebrated his birthday and anniversary today. So we want to say happy birthday to Chuck Brown, who is a legend here in Washington, D.C. Next question. Yes.
I have one more question, if you don't mind. What would, in terms of a dollar figure, be a successful, say, first year for this movie? Like, how many millions would you consider?
Well, I don't know, because having, as you all know, I've worked for Babyface and Boyz II Men and Steve Harvey and the king of comedy and so many recording artists, and I know that as you plan events, it costs. So we've got to raise enough money to come out with something befitting of Michael Jackson. And in fact, some of the calls I've already made have been very positive with regards to the industry and for people that we have reached out to initially. And I want to say thank you to Serena Williams too, because if it had not been for her, and in fact Michael Jackson had been in the studio with Babyface, he had been traveling with Boyz II Men and Quadriella Men. Would you come up here, please? Quadriella Men is a longtime mentor and friend of mine. He represents Boyz II Men and Janet Jackson.
and Vanessa Williams. Quadri took me, this is really interesting. Jimmy Carter had me contact Michael in 1990 for him to partner with him for Heal the World. Quadri took me in 1998 to South Korea, where Boyz II Men performed with Michael Jackson and Michael Jackson and Friends. And here is someone who has opened a lot of doors and has been a trendsetter for so many in the industry. Let's give Quadriella Men a round of applause. Quadri and I, along with Katherine Jackson and others, have been engaged in litigation against the estate of Michael Jackson, so I'm not going to be secret about that. We're hoping that one day right will come to the top and we'll be treated with respect, and we'll be able to mediate and do the right things, because Michael Jackson was a good man. Michael Jackson was exceptional in that he wasn't mean-spirited. He was not a bully. He didn't intimidate. He did the right thing. And that's why I'm stepping up, because I don't believe he's been treated fairly. And because I knew him, he moved here to be with me for 6 months to turn around his personal and professional life. What more can I do but to step up for him? And that's why I'm here today. Any more questions?
Yeah, I have a question. You said you and Katherine Jackson are currently suing the estate. Could you tell us more about that litigation?
Well, yes. Michael Jackson left. I don't know whether we have that document, but Michael Jackson left a mandate signed where he issued certain ownership of his company, the Michael Jackson Company, to several individuals, including me and his mother, Catherine, and others. And it's been a long journey. It hasn't been pretty. It hasn't been fair. It hasn't been easy. And, as a Georgetown Law School graduate, I've gone into court looking for balanced scales of justice. I haven't quite seen it, because for African Americans and for women, it's pretty tough out here in the court system. But I'm hoping that at some point in time, we'll have a positive result.
So what is the status of the lawsuit?
Well, right now we are at the process of fighting an issue of a lawyer having submitted a document 1 minute late, and the court saying they're not going to accept it now. So that's where we currently are. But because it's an ongoing legal matter, I can't say much more. But all I can say is I hope you all pray for us, because we've been in litigation for 10 years, and that's a real long time to be fighting for justice.
As we continue the press conference, can you please state your name and where you're from? Thank you.
Well, thank you, Harvey. And Harvey Starr Washington is a legend. He just celebrated his 41st anniversary as one of the first people in fashion and design. And let me tell you what his specialty was. Many people were discriminated against because of their size. Harvey Starr Washington decided that all sizes are beautiful, particularly the full-figured woman. So Harvey gave full-figured women an opportunity to show their beauty. So Harvey, thank you for that. Ma'am, where were you from?
I'm from Billboard, Maryland.
All right. Hi.
Victoria Sampson again with ABC 7 News. Is there an amount of money that you already have currently with the foundation?
No, we're just at the beginning stages of it, and hopefully we will have monies in the kitty soon, but we're just starting. And I felt it appropriate to come out at this time because next week is Michael Jackson's birthday. A few months ago was the anniversary of his death, so I couldn't think of a better time, because all we've heard this year, all we've heard is negativism. everything negative about Michael Jackson. Every single thing. Since the beginning of the year, you have not heard one positive thing about this man who sold over 1 billion records and who gave over $300 million away in his lifetime. So that's why I can't say it enough. And when is a good time? Someone asked me, well, is there a specific time that you've chosen? When is a good time? When you're going to honor somebody who's done so much for so many people, any time is a good time. You don't have to just wait until the anniversary of the death or birthday, and I felt that it was an appropriate time to do so. Yes? Yes. Uh-huh.
So, for people in this area, because Michael Jackson has influenced so many artists, so many different people that aren't famous, that just want to dance like him, be like him. For those people that inspire and fans in this area, who do we contact, who do they contact if they want to start an organization for him or donate something, maybe something in his name?
I would say the estate of Michael Jackson for that. The executors of his estate would be the appropriate people for you to go to do something official for as far as dancing and contests and those kinds of things.
Not for contests, but just to, you stated that no one has named anything for
Yes.
them, like for that, not just for the dance.
Well, I would think that if there were something that you wanted to do personally, and it's through a school or an organization, no one would bar you from naming something for Michael Jackson that's going to help other people. And if you want to give a Michael Jackson scholarship away or someone who dances like Michael, you know, there's a very thin line there, but I would suggest that you go through the estate of Michael Jackson. Yes, more questions? Is there anything else? Yes, Tiffany.
Yes, Raymone Bain and Company. My question is for us that are millennials. What's the best way that we can carry out his legacy for ages to come?
Well, you know, one of the things I said is, you know, hashtag MJ New Beginning. Just post online your thoughts. Has Michael Jackson done anything for you? How has he influenced you? My mom used to always say, don't worry so much about the negative. Continue to do the positive. And as long as you do that, the positive will always rise to the top. And that's what I'm saying here. Since we're almost in 2020. And all we've heard are accusations of which this man was acquitted for on, June 13th, 2005, by people who at that time testified that he had never done anything wrong or inappropriate. So there has to be some balance here. Do I wait until you die, Cookie? And then I come out here and I make some accusation against you that you can't step up and defend yourself? Michael Jackson is no different than any of us. He has a name. He was one of the greatest entertainers of all time. But he deserves the same kind of courtesy as one of us would. Yes?
One last question for you. Excuse me. Can you just tell us what you have in mind for the tribute event?
Well, I want it to be big because I think he deserves that. And there are so many recording artists and so many people who've stepped up for him, you know. And there are 4 people I want to thank: Kanye West, will.i.am, Fergie, and Akon, because they were on the 25th anniversary Thriller CD. And those were some of the last recordings that Michael Jackson made in 2007. I want to thank Beyonce. She was one of the few people who would agree to give Michael Jackson his award at the World Music Awards. The organization told us that right after his acquittal, and between the acquittal and the World Music Awards, they were having a hard time finding anyone who would agree to honor him. And I want to thank Beyonce for stepping up, because people were telling her not to do it. She defied them. And Chris Brown, who performed on behalf of Michael Jackson. And then there's Steve Harvey, who decided to go to church with Michael Jackson one day during the trial, and who has been a strong supporter, and David Chappelle, and others who, despite what you hear in the news or what you read, these people all step forward to pay tribute to and to show their friendship to Michael Jackson. And they deserve to be thanked, because during the time of his life, it was very hurtful when people were asked to step up and either perform or pay tribute to him. They said no. And so I would be remiss if I did not take the time to publicly thank all of them. And I was starting to say something about Serena. During the time that I represented her, she and Venus were doing so wonderfully in tennis, and she still is. But I asked their mother, Oracene, what can I do to show them that I appreciate the fact that they are winning and that they have hired me? Serena's hired me. And she said, well, if you introduce them to Michael Jackson, they will die. But don't bring him to the tournament, because they'll lose. So during one of the tournaments out in LA, the WTA Tour Championships, I took that as an opportunity to make the introduction, not knowing that Neverland Valley Ranch was 4 hours in a good day from LA, and it was a surprise. So as we got to Oxnard, California, Serena says, Raymone, where are we going? And I said, well, it's a surprise. She says, no, the surprise is on you. We are turning back. I have a tournament tomorrow. When I told her, I said, well, he's going to be very disappointed. And she said, he who? I said, Michael Jackson. She says, what? The king of pop? You mean Michael Jackson? Well, Serena sang Michael Jackson songs for the next 2 hours as we went to Neverland Valley Ranch. And it was because of the time we spent there with him. He asked me for my number, asked Serena for her number, and he just immediately began calling us back. We didn't realize that the next day he was going into court. We didn't leave until 3 a.m. The next day he came into court with a disguise and on crutches. And Serena called me up and said, Raymone, turn on CNN. Watch Michael. She says, he's on crutches. Well, we looked, and Michael told them that he had been bitten by a spider. Serena called me up and said, did we see any spiders yesterday at Neverland Valley Ranch? I said, no, but, you know, I guess that's his excuse for being late. But, you know, I have gotten and had the support of so many people, and I thank them, Babyface and Muhammad Ali and Mahdi and Armstrong Williams, who arranged for me to meet Richard Pryor and to be hired by him and Terry Giles, his lawyer at the time, and Walter Latham and Kenny Edmonds, Babyface. And my relationship with him is now in the 32nd year. I want to thank all of them. And Estelle, thank you so much for what you're doing for the Democratic women. And I see Janice, and I see Helen and Andrea from the Democratic women, and so many of you, Sonia and Donna. Thank you so much. And Angie Gates is like doing so much here in the District of Columbia for film and entertainment and music. She has initiated so many innovative programs and events on behalf of our mayor, Muriel Bowser, whom I love very much, and Constance Newman. You're sitting over there just quiet, but this woman here is an icon. She was the director of personnel management. She's been the advisor to so many presidents. She headed up USAID. She was Assistant Secretary of State. So Connie, I am so honored that you are here. Thank you so very much. And that's one of the things about Michael Jackson. And this is a quick little story. Somehow a watch owned by Michael Jackson ended up in the Congo. Well, because I guess the watch was so expensive, it got to the king. Well, when the king saw the watch that was being sold on the street, he said, "Oh my God, this is the watch I gave Michael Jackson." And he didn't know how the watch got back to the Congo. But in the bottom line is, he called my office and said, his people, "We have Michael Jackson's watch that was being sold on the street, and we're gonna send it back to him." That's the kind of man he was. He knew kings and queens and princesses and princes, but he never lost his touch with people. He was just as humble and at home sitting right here than he would be with the king of Saudi Arabia or the Sultan of Brunei, whom he had me call on his behalf one day. He called me and said, "Raymone, I need to talk to my friend, the Sultan of Brunei." And I said, "Really?" And he says, "Yeah, I need for you to get the number so that you can put the call through." And of course, how do I call the Sultan of Brunei? Well, going through the embassy, I was able to do so. But that was the level that Michael Jackson operated on. And I am extremely honored to have had the opportunity to work for him and all of the other people, because you don't find many African Americans or women who've been given the opportunity to serve in the various capacities that I have throughout my career. And I'm honestly humbled to all means, based on the kind of support and the confidence and the trust that so many in the entertainment and sports industry have given me. And I'm humbled that all of you have come here today to hear what I've got to say on behalf of my friend, Michael Jackson. Thank you.
I hope you all enjoyed this press conference. Who's bad? Ramone's bad.